Welcome to Fiction and Focus, a podcast where we explore the craft of writing without taking ourselves too seriously. I'm Nathan Harms.
And I'm Wesley Watts. Each episode, we'll discuss uplifting topics like the soul-crushing pressure of expectations, the suffocating grip of self-doubt, and the swift kick in the unmentionables of rejection.
We'll share our experiences, struggles, and heartaches in the hope that you might find some small measure of comfort in our collective misery, or at least have a laugh at our expense.
So grab a pen, paper, and your favorite writing snack, and join us as we put fiction in focus.
Welcome, word nerds, to Fiction in Focus. I am the co-host, of which known as Nathan Harms, and to the other side of me is
Wesley Watts.
Hey Wesley, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing.
Yeah. No, it's been a hell of a week.
Stuffing things.
I won't give too much away. Suffice it to say that if you live in Colorado and you want to work with this guy, I'm available. So, comment below.
Wait, are you saying, hold on a second, are you saying that you don't make 100% of your income from your books?
No. I mean, it's like 1% at this point. Maybe 2% on a good year. I mean, if things keep going the way they're going, next year it will be 100% of my income.
Ooh. Wait, I see what you're doing there.
All right. Well, before we get to today's topic and episode, for one, Wesley, congratulations on starting your writing journey again.
Again.
Woo. And again.
Oh, my God.
But I really like, what is the formula you're using to make sure you're hitting a certain amount of pages a day? Because you shared that with me the other day, and I thought it was pretty freaking cool.
Oh, the spreadsheet?
Yeah, it's a good spreadsheet. I won't have you put it up here, but if you can use your imagination and imagine a spreadsheet,
we can put it up. Basically taking what your goal is, how many days you're looking at, and then recalculating what your daily goal should be based off of how many days are left and what you've done the day before.
That is fantastic. Very good. Very good. Yeah. You were ahead yesterday, I noticed, by a few pages.
I was. And then today, man, I don't know what happened. My alarm on my phone has never failed me before.
Right.
But this morning I wake up and it's going off. Like the screen is on and it's going off, and it's been going off for over an hour.
Oh my God.
Not making any noise. So
no.
I slept right through all my writing time, which is, first thing in the morning before I go to work.
Right.
Maybe after we're done recording here, I'll be able to do some of it. I don't know. Probably not. My brain's a bit fried.
Yeah, I feel that.
You have,
cool.
Well, actually, we both have some news. So yours is bigger than mine.
Yeah.
The good news.
I'm about to be unemployed. No, sorry. That's not.
We already covered that part. That's the bad news.
So I finished officially the first draft, and I'm currently going through the other drafts of my new book, which is going to be called, drumroll, right? The Shadows That We Chase and Other Tales. Ooh.
I mean, I hate the title, but,
I know.
It's just cool.
I
take the title.
The title was like the hardest thing for me with this one.
You were fretting about that. You were going back and forth.
Yeah. Suffice it to say, ChatGPT or none of that helped me with the title. It had to come from here. But yeah, I finished that this last weekend, and I've been spending this week, when not wallowing in misery, doing drafts, and it's turning out pretty damn good. Like, I'm really, really excited for it. So
nice.
I'm going to finish it up in the next couple days, and then I'm going to send it to a few people to read it and to give me their inputs, and then I'll do my final draft and put it all together. And then I guess when I release it, I was thinking we could do a live in-time reading with no edits, live on the air.
Entire thing.
The entire thing. I'm a
How
slow
long is
reader
it?
too. It's not that. It's 17 chapters, and it's roughly like I think 24,000 words. So it's still fairly short, but I don't.
About live narration. That's probably about 3 to 4 hours.
I don't think I can do that. Yeah, and then aside from that, I guess I just want to plug real quick. I have been reading actually, so I have this book right here. It's called Neurodiverse. It is from an author here in Colorado that just moved from California. They are non-binary and autistic, and they wrote a book that is essentially a sci-fi political drama set in a world through the eyes of someone who is autistic. And anyone who knows me knows that that's a very, very big part of my life because of my son. And so it hit me really, really hard. It's a great book. I recommend you check it out. They're very talented and good peoples, or as they would say in the book, I think it's a great human being. And the other book I've been reading.
Oh God.
Oh God, I'm trying to get through it, guys. I really am. No, I have been.
It's
finally,
a trial, right?
No. No. It's easier to read than spreading butter on toast. I don't know. I couldn't come up with a good metaphor. It's been a long fucking week, man. No, I actually am sitting down and reading Me and the Machine, and I am enjoying the hell out of it. And so kudos to you, sir. It's interesting. Awesome. We have a podcast, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do this podcast with you. And like, maybe in the back of my mind this whole time, like, what if his fucking book sucks? Like, I'm doing this podcast, and like, I open up the first page, and half the words are like misspelled, and
wouldn't that be awesome though?
It kind of would. I thought he knew what he was talking about this whole time.
I sent you the B version.
Right. It's like the first draft, you know.
It's funny you should say that though, because there's two specific YouTuber like booktubers. I'm not going to call them out by name, but they both had successful YouTube accounts before they released a book. And they were given like solid advice. This is how you do it. This is what you do. This is like basically from an authoritative type perspective.
Right.
And I watched both of them, and actually I still do from time to time, because the funny thing is they actually give good advice, most of it. Like, right. Even the stuff like even when I say most of it, like the other stuff's probably good advice, just didn't really resonate with me. Yeah. But their writing, once they finally released a book, and I read some of it, I couldn't finish either one of them. It was fucking terrible. But it really kind of like struck me that I was like, hey, that doesn't make their advice any less valid. Right. Yeah. Or their content any less entertaining, because one of them particularly was like just really fun to watch. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe, what am I trying to say here?
I know what you're trying to say. I think it's kind of like, it's like you can be a really good sound engineer who's never picked up an instrument. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or like like to bring into like the music sense. It's like, or you could be a really good filmmaker that can't act. Like, you know, like a director could write, a writer-director could write an amazing script and know exactly everything to do right and everything to say, but if they got up there and tried to do it themselves and do the dramatic scene with the crying, it might be laughable. Absolutely. Because I think you can know a lot about a craft without being able to do it. So, and
also, I think the people that are most naturally good at doing something are usually the worst teachers at it.
So hopefully we suck at this then.
Well,
if we're good.
I don't think I am naturally good. Right. Like, I do have some confidence in what I'm doing now, but it took a lot of work and a lot of bad writing to get there.
Yeah. No, I get that.
I still have a long way to go, but
yeah. And you know what's interesting? We've taught some creative writing classes, me and my brother locally, and I'm fairly good at it, but I hate it. Like being on here is different. I get to talk about shit just that I'm interested in. I'm not really. It's not like there's a class, right?
yeah,
Like
you're
even
not
if
trying to
people
start
are
up a curriculum.
right, exactly. In fact, like our treatments for the shows are usually like 2 sentences. You know, it's not a lot to memorize.
We don't even look at it half the time.
Seriously, that's why in a little bit you'll see me glaring at my phone real quick, be like, "What's the next thing? What are we talking about today?" So yeah, no, I totally get that. Those who can't do teach.
Sometimes, I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes it goes together too. But
Yeah.
I just, I don't. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think that's a great barometer for.
I think it's rare. In fact, a lot of the authors I meet at like local shows and stuff like that are very reserved, and almost even if they're really talented, they don't necessarily like to talk about themselves a lot. So, yeah. But you have some news as well. I think I know what it is. It's pretty damn cool.
I have 2 pieces of news.
Oh, 2. All right, it's a 2 for everybody.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the bad news, and it's not that bad for me, but you probably heard about the Meta AI training fiasco.
Yes.
So,
oh my.
It's not going to be fresh news when this podcast comes out, but it's pretty fresh right at the moment.
Yeah.
Meta's basically got caught training their new AI with everything in LibGen, which is a pirate site.
Right.
The sad part is there's more stuff coming out on it still, but some other stuff is leaked, and apparently they actually tried to go the ethical route first.
Okay.
So they actually reached out to publishers and things like that to say, okay, what would it take to get your catalog to train our AI? How much would it cost?
Right.
That kind of thing. And then they said, well, this is too expensive and it's going to take too long. There was nothing in the leak about how expensive it was going to cost, but I mean, Meta cleared over 140 billion in profit last year.
Right. So
I mean, just think that 140 billion in profit, not gross. And this is going to be too expensive to do legally.
right.
And it did leak how long it was going to take. So, take a guess. How long is too long for Meta to wait for the documents to start training their AI?
Well, I assume since they're a really family friendly and a company that has good morals, I would assume 3 months.
4 to 6 weeks.
Oh,
They couldn't
sort
wait.
of
4 to
close.
6 weeks. Yeah,
4
you
to
weren't too
6
far off.
weeks. I know, right? I was like, surely it's not less than that. Like, I wait for packages from AliExpress that take longer than that.
So yeah, they're like, this is going to take too long. It's going to cost money. Let's just do this the fast route and steal it. And so yeah, they downloaded everything off LibGen and just went to town. And there's some internal documents that got leaked on them actually talking about, hey, what's our legal kind of exposure here? So apparently they just decided, hey, settling a class action lawsuit is going to be cheaper and easier than doing it the right way. But anyway, so it was going around, and authors were all putting their names and books into the LibGen to see, hey, what did they steal?
Yeah.
And one of my books from my previous pen name was in there.
Wow.
So that's my little bit of negative news.
Did the book suck though?
Actually, no. It was one of
the better ones.
Yeah.
See, it wasn't your first book.
No, it was not my first book, and it was actually it was a novella. It was the one that Eli and I co-wrote.
Yeah.
So kind of a little bit of a special place in my heart since he's not with us anymore. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
what are you gonna do?
On a counterpoint, though, I mean, I asked Meta AI about your story, and I said, "What sources did you use to be trained as an AI?" I went to the source,
Okay,
and they were like, it supports, let's see, such as long form long form text summarization. Oh gosh, here I'm gonna. Any creator AI or AI character built with AI Studio has additional training from the person who customized them. It didn't really tell me a whole lot there. It's just a bunch of jargon. It was like reading the
Right.
the disclaimer on whatever, like the Netflix contract that no one reads. But I was like, but did you steal any books to add to your programming? I mean, I told it. I was like, come on, motherfucker, let's go. It said, I did it, and it does this in parentheses, still books, but I was trained on a massive corpus of text data, which includes millions of books, articles, and other sources written content. My data includes websites, books, and academic papers, product reviews, and Wikipedia articles. It is worth noting that my training data is sourced from publicly available sources, and I don't have direct access to copyrighted material. Hold on. However, I may have been trained on text snippets or summarizations of copyrighted works, which is allowed under fair use provisions. And I said, were the books you used pirated? I didn't pirate
you were
books.
Like interrogating this thing.
Yeah, I was like I was like the Russian with Indiana Jones, like, telling me, Mr. Jones. Let's see. I don't rely on pirated or copyrighted materials, and so I thought, if they're doing that, they can't possibly steal from like a really well-known author, right? It would have to read the author's books to mimic said author. I said, write me a short story in the style of Stephen King.
Stephen King probably did give access, right? Like, he is notoriously known for loving AI.
He loves AI. So yeah, exactly. So I was like, can you do this? And it replied back with, the storm rolled in like a living entity, its darkness suffocating the small town of Willow Creek. I won't go on, but point being,
Get a really bad impression of Stephen King.
which is, why should it be allowed to do that? I mean, Stephen King already does that half the time himself.
But shots fired. What it should have done, though, if it really didn't pirate any Stephen King books, it should have said, I don't know what Stephen King is, or like, I don't know how Stephen King writes.
Right. Or if it was
Yeah.
based on summarization, it should like how dumb do you have to be? And I know it's AI, but it can't be that dumb, right? Like, it has all the knowledge and data in the world, but when you're designing that bot, why wouldn't they like put, like, just for legal reasons, anything in there that says, write me some in the style of Stephen King, and it responds with, okay, here's something written in the style of Stephen King. This was composed from publicly available snippets of his, something like that. Even if it's not true, like, how stupid do you have to be to just immediately go against what you just said and do that? It's just, it's ironic, don't you think? A little too ironic, I really do think.
I almost broke out in a song.
I know, it's going to be stuck in your head the rest of the day. Didn't I do that exact same thing to you the other day?
Yeah, I think
the
you
same
did,
song. Yeah.
Was it the same song? I don't remember.
I think it was.
You get earworms stuck in my head often.
I try. But yeah, so that's where we're at in the world, and you have other news. Let's go to your other news, which is much better.
I was listening to the podcast Plotless by the Podlasses.
Nice. Great name.
And so I work with one of them, which is how I found the podcast. And I've never met or even seen a picture of the other one. But they were talking about, they both read Me and the Machine a little while back. And they were making jokes about doing fan fiction of Me and the Machine.
Nice.
And it was pretty cool because they were like talking about, they knew I'd be listening. So they were like, well, and we're doing this without Wesley's blessing. Or no, she said, with or without Wesley's blessing. And they're like, well, based on the content of that book, I don't think he would care much if like, oh, what did they say, man? I'm fucking it up. It was pretty awesome though. They basically said like, a huge theme in the book is women not taking shit from men. And I was like,
right.
Yes. So that really touched my heart. Like whether they actually do write that or not, no idea. But awesome if they do.
I love that.
So it was fun listening to that.
Yeah. One of my buddies, his daughter really likes the Zed and Zia stuff, and she actually like drew some like fanfic like pictures of like what Zed and Zia's kid would look like and stuff like that. It's just really cool stuff. It's like, I think you should end the series this way and like stuff like that. I love that. And that's about every other kid that buys the books. For every kid that read the first book and doesn't buy any of the other ones, but like sees us at a convention, they're like, those are the guys who wrote that horrible book. There's always one other kid that like comes up and is just like, oh, you have a new book. I love this. Oh, I love this part. This part's my favorite and stuff like that. So anytime you can have someone put that little carrot out there where they're like, oh man, it would be cool if you did this, or that's so cool, because that means not only do they like your characters, but they want to own your characters for themselves in a weird way. So
honestly, I was just happy like it made enough of an impression that they're still thinking about it a little bit,
right?
Because we've all read those books that are like, hey, yeah, this is enjoyable, it's good, and then you put it down, you never comes up again in your head. So
it's not like a Netflix series or something like that where you're going to rewatch Stranger Things for the nth time or whatever. Books, if you reread a book, and I only have a couple like that in my life that I've reread multiple times. I mean, doesn't that say something about a book, that if it either sticks with you or you reread it or you want to do fan fiction or something like that, it stayed with you in such a way that it's special to you, because that's a commitment, right? Like, I mean,
because everybody has a TBR pile that's huge. So if you're not actually chopping that down, you're spending time on something you've already read.
Right.
You must really like it. Now, I don't know how we got there, but because they weren't talking about rereading it. But.
Right. Well, now they will. If they listen to podcasts, they're like obligated to reread it now. You have to reread it. Otherwise, you hate Wesley.
All right. Well, now that we're like almost 30 minutes in.
Should we discuss our topic for the day?
Yeah. What is our topic?
I almost forgot here. So we're going to be talking about subtext. Subtext.
And, what's the first rule of subtext?
We don't talk about subtext. All right. Good night, everybody.
That's why we could do all that jabbering up front.
Yeah, absolutely. No, subtext. And you know what? If we don't get to everything today, I'm sure we can do it on a future episode too. But like, I feel like subtext has like a lot of insight to offer, and is kind of something that's pretty cool to have in your back pocket for writing. So before we go into kind of both our versions of subtext and some examples and so on, I just want to mention kind of what subtext is the underlying or implicit meaning that, while not explicitly stated, is understood by the audience. Yeah, there we go. That's the Webster Dictionary definition, I think. Things it can bring to the table. It can add nuance and depth. It can create, what's our favorite thing? Tension. Yes. Foreshadows an incident. Shows character growth. Or builds a theme. So it can do a lot of stuff. Yep. It's pretty cool. To get further into it,
before we get into that,
kind
of want to talk about like yes, it does bring all those things to the table, and it adds to your story in that way, particularly depth. I really think of it as,
Yeah.
We talk about like pantsers and plotters, which I really like George R. R. Martin's terms for that, architects and gardeners.
Right.
So if we want to use those terms, man, the subtext is the basement underneath your structure, or moles digging holes like up by your roots, right? So like it's underneath. You don't see it,
Yeah.
but it's there. And without it, stories are pretty bland. Or, I guess what I think when I think of subtext, it's not so much as like what it adds, but without it, you have left.
Right.
And you have a very like plain, straightforward conversation. Everything's kind of on the table, and to me, that's kind of boring. And to bring it back to what I always usually bring it back to, screenwriting, that quote, if the scene is about what the scene is about, you're in deep shit. And that's Robert McKee.
All right. I was about to say where's that quote from?
It's Robert, story, style, structure, substance, and the principles of screenwriting.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think subtext is especially, it's so needed in books, because one of my favorite things is to have throwaway lines through the first, whatever, freaking, let's say 9 out of 10 chapters, right?
Sure.
And then that last chapter somehow brings back all these throwaway lines into something where it changes the way you look at what you've seen. And this can be done kind of as a twist, but doesn't have to be done as a twist. It can just bring meaning to these things. If you have a character that's just constantly fiddling with something in their hand, and then you add context to that later, that subtext that builds through the whole thing, it brings meaning to that.
Right.
And it's just really fun. I love to do it. I do it in basically every single one of my books, and I think every author does it a little bit in theirs, whether they mean to or not. I guess the idea of this is just zeroing in on that and giving it meaning. But yeah,
exactly.
No, I love it.
And I really liked how, when I read the treatment and what you put in here, I really liked what you're about to go through next, because it's not at all the way I think of it.
Right.
Which I'm excited for you to get into, so I'm going to stop interrupting you.
Yeah, no, you're good. So my types are privileged subtext. This is when the audience knows more than the characters. So a good example of this would be like a hero's journey or something like that, where the narrator, say you're writing in like a third person or something, is telling the audience that unbeknownst to them, they're going to face this mighty evil at the end of this path, or that there's more to the story. And so you can start dropping little nuggets in there as they go, and it adds that menace and tension to the whole story, because they're just having a grand old time going maybe on this journey, and at the end of it, there's a dragon that killed their parents or something. I don't know.
If I only would have known what was going to happen, I wouldn't have got out of bed that day.
Right. And so it's kind of fun. It because you don't always have to bring the audience on the exact same journey as your characters. Sometimes you can have that fishbowl kind of experience where you're watching. It's like ants in a ant farm or something. You're just watching them go through the motions, and what's coming, and that builds that tension. And it's really fun.
Absolutely.
My next one, this is my favorite one. I have a pretty good example of this one from one of my books, is revelation subtext. This is when the author reveals a truth about a character or a situation over time. So I do this in, probably all of my books a little bit. But one of the biggest examples is in my book, Petrichor. It starts out with this man who is essentially waiting for the coroners to arrive at his old family house while his grandmother, who raised him, is dead in the other room. She passed away. He's waiting for the,
That's uncomfortable.
Yeah, and he can smell rain coming. And he remarks how he hates the smell of rain. And this is a theme throughout the book a little bit. It touches on it here and there. And it's the smell of rain that bugs him. Something that most people love and he hates, Now, this could just be a throwaway line, just trying to describe a grumpy character, because he kind of is.
Yeah.
But you find out at the end of the book that he has, and spoiler alert, if you don't want to know anything about the book, sorry, I'm going to spoil the shit out of it right now, is that essentially he had childhood trauma where there was this fire that killed his parents and his childhood friend. And he was out, they were playing hide and seek, and he was out back. He decided to hide out back, and that's when the fire started in the house. And he basically watched from the outside as everything he loved burned. And at that time, he could smell rain coming, but it was too late to put out the fire. And he kind of regresses and forgets all about that. And so that's why he hates the smell of rain. It's a really simple thing. Like, I hate the smell of rain. And then to bring it back at the end of the book as this traumatic thing. And it's a ghost story, too. So, there's creepy shit in there as well. So feel free to pick up the book, Petrichor by Nathan Harms, on Amazon. And check it out. But, yeah, that's like my favorite kind of subtext. I love bringing it back. Something that your mind remembers as a reader, but you don't put a lot of weight on it. But you still remember it. So at the end of the book or at the revelation time when that thing comes up, it all kind of comes flooding back and you're like, oh, that's like this. And all of a sudden it builds this weight into everything that's happened before and gives it meaning in a whole different light. So that's my favorite kind of subtext.
Very cool.
Yeah. I like subtext through promise. Authors promise readers a great story. Readers want their expectations to be fulfilled. Authors can do this by creating subtext that reinforce a genre or a character's development. So to me, this is kind of like the spark in the character's eye. Like, say you have a character who's kind of a jackass, right? And say this is going to be a redemption story. If you have them pass a homeless person on the street and they have an inkling of internal monologue where they're just like, I could give him $1, but I'm not going to, kind of thing. The fact that he's juggling with that decision inside inherently is going to let your reader know what the journey could potentially be, right? Like, you root for that character to change and grow and become more. And so it's like this carrot for the reader. And the same thing kind of with the genre, if you're telling a scary story, the way you could do subtext is from really simple vernacular of using those key words that can really draw someone into that world of you're not going to be like, it was a bright and colorful house in the middle of June. Right. You're going to be like, it's a fucking stormy night. It's this, it's that. There's cobwebs hanging from the chandelier, and you're creating a mood. And it's subtext that's telling the character, the reader, that this is going to be a scary story. Yeah. And so on. So, again, it's kind of the world building ish, but again, it's a trick because the reader doesn't really know you're doing it. They just know what it is. But you're doing it for their advantage. And then subtext through questions. If a story is well written, the audience will begin to wonder what happens next. This subtext is enhanced by unspoken tension and curiosities. So I do this with all the Zed and Zia books. I end every chapter as if it were like a Netflix show and the credits roll. So I leave, it's like a cliffhanger, right? How are we going to get to there? And then you cut the chapter. It's a trick that I've kind of learned, especially because that book is for young readers, and it's kind of like a gateway book to get kids into reading. Sure. And I do it in some of my other books too, but in the Zen and Zia books especially, I love to end almost every single chapter on a cliffhanger, on that,
Right.
and that's a kind of a form of subtext that you're leaving them one more, so they're just going to turn the page. It leaves the reader asking a question: what's going to happen next? Is this character really dead? Is all lost? Is the girl going to get the guy, or the guy going to get the guy, or
Yeah.
what's going to happen? And so those are my primary ones. I'm sure I use other versions. But those are the examples that when I was looking kind of through, I was like, that one. Like I recognized it right off the bat. I'm like, I use all of these. So yeah, that's my list. That's my rant for the day. I'm gonna drink some water now, and if and by the way, if you think that's impressive, just sit me down at the computer on a Teams meeting with a business call. I will blow your mind. Once again, if you're hiring.
Just in case one of our 4 listeners is hiring.
Hey,
in Colorado.
Right. What would be funny is if I actually got a job from the podcast, and the boss was like, wow, when you're not edited, you're not nearly as funny.
This time, instead of like linking your books down below, we'll just link your LinkedIn profile.
I'm gonna be okay, people. I promise. I'll the next episode we'll have the GoFundMe set up.
Oh, geez.
All right. Let's move on.
All right.
So before we move on to your list, I just wanted to share something real quick because I was just kind of sitting here, and spoiler alert, one of us had to run away for just a second, so we had to edit a part out. And while I was sitting here waiting for them, I was looking online, and I saw a post from Sour Patch Kids, and I just want to read this for our listeners. I know. We've heard enough. We've had enough. You're not sour enough. Well, guess what? Now, we're not sour at all. Effective immediately, we are no longer Sour Patch Kids. Instead, we're giving you exactly what you deserve. Just Patch Kids. While this may seem sudden, our decision is final. We cannot stand by and be called not sour in our comments anymore. You don't appreciate our sour, so we're taking it back. You never realize what you have until it's sour, then sweet, then gone. Hope it was worth it. I just wanted to say, whoever's doing the social media writing for Sour Patch Kids, give that person a raise.
That is something, man. Fuck.
Once in a while, you see something in marketing as a writer, and you're just like, "Oh man, who came up with that? That is just too good." Which I appreciate.
No, that's
creativity.
Awesome.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
That's somebody having a good day at work.
Right. That's a batshit crazy episode right here on the pod. All right, Wesley, take it away.
Okay. So I kind of also 4 different types that I want to talk about, and the way that I think of subtext anyway. The first one is, I think of as innuendo. And a lot of times the word kind of conjures like a sexual kind of thing. If you look at the actual definition, that's not really the actual definition. I'm not really using the actual definition either exactly. It's just kind of in the ballpark.
Right.
What I'm meaning by it is saying something and meaning something else.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty much textbook subtext.
Right.
So this is just somebody saying whatever, they mean something else, and you kind of understand that. And for an example, I'm going to go to the Godfather of mob movies. The Godfather.
Oh wow, that was repetitive.
Right? That was. See what I did there? Very, very clever. I am very, very clever.
Very, very clever.
So the line, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Right? Yes.
So if you were to take that by complete face value, what does it mean? It means he's going to, like, it almost sounds nice.
Right.
But obviously the tone is different. The meaning behind it is he's going to do what I tell him or he's going to be dead.
Right.
Very, very different.
It's kind of like a character you don't expect saying something. So, for instance, if if Barney the dinosaur were to get up there and be like, "I'm going to make him an offer that he can't refuse," you'd be like, "Oh, that's kind of sweet," But when
cat.
right, but when the mob boss says it obviously takes on a totally different meaning. So it's yeah, no, absolutely, I love that.
And you can find tons of examples of this.
Oh
because
yeah,
it's straight up. This is the basic definition of subtext. The next one is doublespeak, and this is what I think of people that are actually saying the words that they mean, but they mean something different to the person that they're speaking to.
Yeah.
So my example of this one is from an episode I just watched. That's why I was like fresh in my mind, of Schitt's Creek, season 4, episode 10. And the B stories, the secondary story in this one is, I kind of have to set this one up. So Alexis, she's this carefree rich kid, spoiled, really just thinks about herself and that kind of thing. And her growth is starting to become like, she's, instead of taking the easy route, her growth is she's starting to understand that she needs to do things herself. But just as she's getting this underway and getting her own business just barely started, this old friend kind of comes into town, not for her, but just happens to find her. And this friend's just a walking freaking nightmare, totally like Paris Hilton kind of character. And is just terrible to her friends, terrible to everybody around her, and just an awful human being. And then towards the end of the episode, she offers Alexis basically her dream job. Alexis wants out of that shitty town. She wants a good job. She wants like an awesome career.
Yeah.
And here it is on a platter. This girl's even offering a place to live. That's really nice. Alexis thinks about it kind of briefly, turns her down. And then at the end of that conversation, after she's turned her friend down, her friend's like basically saying that we shouldn't spend so much time apart. Her line is actually, "Oh, and Lex, it was good to see you. Really, it's been too long. We can't let this happen again." And Alexis says, "It won't."
"Oh, and Lex, it was so good to see you. Really, it's been too long. We can't let this happen again. It won't."
And to her friend, she thinks she's agreeing to see each other more often.
Right.
And Alexis, that's a huge character moment, character growth. Yeah. She's like, "I'm done with you. I'm done with that life."
Yeah.
So I just loved that one.
Yeah, it's a great example.
And basically the writing of that whole show is fantastic.
Right. Absolutely.
So let's see. My third type is anecdotal. And this one, I know I've seen it, but we didn't prep for this episode for very long. Go figure, right?
Right.
So I couldn't find one. But the idea by anecdotal is like, somebody asks you a question or whatever, and instead of actually saying the answer, you're going to give a story. And then the meaning of that story, like a parable kind of thing,
right,
is your answer.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't have time to actually find an example of this, so I just pulled one from my own book.
Okay.
This is just a tiny bit of a stretch, I think, maybe, but I think it's close enough to kind of get the idea across.
Yeah.
But in this part, this is actually internalized, so it's not actually even in dialogue. But Gabby is sitting down with her dead brother's best friend. And they haven't seen each other in a long time. When they sit down and he looks at her, she's reminded of this story of from her past. And the story is like her and her brother found a Cheshire monk, which is basically just like my version of a sci-fi chipmunk or something.
Right.
Or whatever. They found an injured one, took it home, hid it from their parents while they nursed it back to health, and then took it to the park to release it once it was better.
Yeah.
And they fell in love with it during that time, of course. They didn't want to let it go, but it was the right thing to do. Yeah. And she says, she'd never forget the look on her brother's face, because it was this feeling that he wanted the animal to go, because he loved it and wanted to have a good life, but he also wanted to stay kind of for the same reasons.
Yeah.
And she's like, I think of this right now because he's looking at me the same way. The subtext there, though, is like the reason why Morgan is looking at her like that, which I'm not going to spoil, but
Right.
basically he's happy to see her, but he doesn't actually want her to be there.
Yeah.
So again, that one's a little bit of a stretch, but it was the only example I could pull on short notice.
I like that. In gosh, I've probably done it actually. Even within my books, I think there's a couple examples in there where I've done that, and I kind of really didn't even think about it. There's one in one of the Zed and Zia books. The main villain Zeke, he tells this character Zari, who's the sister of one of the main characters, and she's kind of turned evil, and he tells her this story about these creatures and their venom, and how they just became more and more venomous until the point where they were so venomous that they couldn't even eat food without poisoning themselves or something. They've become completely...
That's bad evolution right there.
Right.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, they didn't live long. And basically he tells this story, and she's not really sure why, and he basically talks about how in the timeline their usefulness had run out, and he looks at you and he says, "Has your usefulness ran out?" Which is like it's typical
dark.
Oh yeah, it's young readers, not kids. You actually read the Zed and Zia books; they're just massively fucked up. You're like, dude, no, this is why do you call it young readers? This is not for children. And then the other example I have, it's actually not an example, but you said parable. In the book I just finished, there's a line where he tells a story. He said, well, it's kind of like a parable. And he goes, what does this have to do with a pair of bulls?
Oh, my God.
And I love that line because it's so stupid. And it's funny because, it's like kids talking. Anyway, sorry.
That tangent here, that reminds me of Firefly. I think it was the last episode of the series.
Yeah.
The TV show, where Worley, the bounty hunter, is on the ship and basically taking them out.
Yeah.
And he like knocks the doctor down, and the doctor's like, trying to reason through it, right, instead of just fighting back, because that's kind of the character he is.
Yeah. What he does.
He's like, "Are you Alliance?" And Worley's like, "I never thought of myself as a lion. I do have a mighty roar."
That's great.
That's
great.
Such
good writing.
That
such
is
good
not
writing.
subtext.
No, but it's funny.
Still great.
Anything like that. I had in one of my other books. There was something that was like, it's a disease, and he said, it's acute starvation. Da 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 da. And one of the characters goes, "What's so cute about it?" I don't know. Just it's like one of my favorite lines. It's so stupid.
That's like a dad joke.
It's me. All right, let's go to the fourth thing.
Yeah, wrap this up. So this is my last one. You actually already touched on this, but symbolism. Now, I think that some people would argue that symbolism is not subtext, and I can understand that argument. I wouldn't like fight that or anything. It's not a hill I'm going to die on, but I think of it as subtext, at least that it can be. In other instances, maybe it's not, but it's almost an after the fact type of subtext where people are thinking about it after it's all happened. And then you hear like some people trying to find the subtext or trying to find the symbolism and stuff that's not.
Right.
Now there's that one example that gets tossed around. I don't know if it's real or not, but where a lit teacher is like talking about the curtains being blue and being like, what was the author trying to impose or whatever? I can't think of words. What was the author thinking at the time? What were they trying to convey? And it's just like, no, the curtains were just fucking blue.
Right.
So I think it's important not to look for symbolism, but sometimes it's there.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of a controversial example that I've got here.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people actually hate this example.
I know this example. I'm excited about this example.
So in The Departed,
Yes.
really pretty cool Scorsese film.
Yeah, it's a great film.
But yeah, they're trying to find a rat, right? And
Right.
by that, I mean somebody that ratted the cops out.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. Man, it's been a long time since I've seen that.
Snitches get stitches.
But the ending shot is after they kill the rat, there's a literal rat scurrying away.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, basically subtext trying to say, hey, there's going to be more of them, right? Or
Right.
that kind of thing. It's definitely on the nose.
Yeah.
But
that's okay.
Yeah.
I think like an example of it being on the nose would be like riding off into the sunset kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like to me, that's like,
man, that one's just cliche at this point.
It's cliche, yeah, but like at the same time, like if you think about it, it is like a subtext thing, because if you're just if they're riding into a fucking hurricane, it wouldn't be a happy ending, but they're riding into the sunset, and that little bit of subtext is there. What I think is funny though, and I hadn't thought about this, but when you start talking about symbolism and that using that as subtext, it is amazing though, with the story about the blue curtains, how much we do this as a society with every kind of media.
Yeah.
So much so that people are constantly disappointed by media. They will look for the subtext and meaning behind everything in a show, a book, a movie, especially a show. And the show is a great example because you're going week to week to week, or episode to episode. So if you are doing like a weekly release and in episode 3 they show something, you're like, oh, I bet I know what that means. That means in the next episode we're going to see this, or this is going to happen. And then it doesn't happen. And then they're just pissed off and you're like, this is a horrible show now. I hate it. It's funny. Like we look for subtext in everything. I mean, you even outside of media though, I mean, it's who hasn't replayed a conversation in their head with someone when at the end of the conversation it doesn't go well, and you try to think through everything you said and everything they said and try to think like what was really said in that conversation.
Yeah.
What did that actually mean? Yeah, what was it mean? What could I have said differently? And that's like a kind of subtext that will drive you crazy, of course,
No, I've never done that. I don't know what you're talking about.
I haven't done this week at all. But yeah, I guess if we're gonna wrap it up here, I'll say that subtext is cool. That's my takeaway.
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up.
I would go so far to say it's necessary.
How did you have fireworks behind you?
What?
You said 2 thumbs up, and then fireworks shot out from behind you. I'm not even joking.
You're making that up.
No, I swear to God, dude. Do it again. Do it again. Look at the screen.
2 thumbs up.
I didn't do
You
that
just
time. I
wanted
swear
to,
to God.
you just wanted to like make me look like a jackass and do it again.
No, you're going to look back at this recording. I swear to God, like there's like a firework effects going on behind you. That or I haven't had sleep in like 4 days. But I swear to God, you'll have to tell me.
You just had a small aneurysm, buddy.
You know what sucks is I know I saw it. And then if it's not in the recording, like I'll forever be known as like the crackpot. It's like this. We can't listen to anything this guy says. He sees shit on the podcast that's not really there.
Oh.
And that's when you have the big reveal through the subtext that really I've been sitting in this room by myself the whole time, talking to myself. And that fiction and focus isn't even the real thing. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You know what? The psychiatrist was Bruce Willis all along. That's a twist.
What a twist. What a twist.
All right. We should wrap this up.
All right, cool. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.